Can you see the screen?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So let's get started. So thank you for coming. Today I'm going to talk about Ozawa-san's a recent paper called Intersubjectivity and Value Reproducibility of Outcomes of Quantum Measurements. And the reason why I wanted to pick this paper is that I always have a deep doubts on the standard assumption about the mathematical structure of a Qualia. And the Qualia structure is the foundation of our this grant meeting. And this is a link. By the way, I'm gonna share this slide later. And this link is our recent hypothetical paper called Quantum-like Qualia Hypothesis, published in Frontiers. And then there, we elaborated basically my doubts about the standard assumption. And the classic assumption, in short, is that Qualia or any kind of experience is usually modeled as a point in a high-dimensional space. And this is a very much like a classical kind of concept. It's easy to understand, and also it's probably also consistent with what Matsuda-san is going to talk about after that. But basically, some kind of experience is represented as a point in a Euclidean or some kind of classical space that moves around, and then its distance is related to the similarity and things like that. But empirical evidence suggests that the Qualia is not likely to be a classical kind of entity. For example, depending on the order of how you measure, similarity might differ. And also, Qualia can be affected by the measurement, especially the attention. And that means that there is some kind of uncertainty relationship, probably like a Heisenberg relationship like thing happens for the true Qualia. So if you try to make something very precise, then the other side becomes imprecise or something like that. And the more I familiarize myself with quantum theory, I started to feel like a compatibility, contextuality, indefiniteness, and all other many interesting concepts may be relevant to consciousness Qualia. And along this line, I encountered Ozawa-san's quantum measurement instrument theory, and that's the one that I'm interested in. And then this presentation builds on that. But I just wanted to make sure that I'm not talking about quantum effects in the brain in this talk at all. It is just a mathematical structure of the quantum theory that is potentially relevant for the thinking about Qualia. So just to get to the core of the Ozawa-san's paper, the left side is the sort of the representation of the value of a kind of quantum observable, and then x can take some value along this line, and the probability density is represented here, and then maybe Gaussian kind of thing. And then after the measurement, we are sure that particular value of this observable is measured in this measurement observable after time t. Okay, so that probability of m of t equal x is this distribution. And that's a conventional view. And according to Schrödinger and also Dirac, basically this kind of view says that a variable has no definitive value before measurement. And measurement causes the system to jump into one particular value. And that's what I also kind of learned from the school, and also the other book basically says that pretty much all the time. So I always thought that measurement causes or measurement produces a value. That's the sort of the idea. But Ozawa-san's paper basically says, with a sort of mathematical logical kind of argument, if one measurement gives the value of x0, then it has to be the case that another measurement device, M2, which is separated very, very far, like, I don't know, maybe it's the light distance or something like that. This is a thing that I wanted to know after that, Ozawa-san. but really far away, but observing on the same observable A here at time 0, then these two outcome of the measurement has to be the same. Here, this is x0, and then this one is also x0. And this is, I don't know whether this is something that we can prove experimentally. This is also another thing that I want to ask Ozawa-san. But this is kind of mind-boggling to me, if it's true. But also it is mind-boggling to me because it is so inconsistent with what as far as I know, which is very little, about other types of the quantum theoretical interpretation. For example, one of the things is called cubism, Bayesian interpretation of the quantum theory. It says that basically the measurement outcome depends on the agent who measures it. So if that's the case, then one agent measures things in here, doesn't matter for another agent measuring the same thing at far distance. But this paper basically says that cannot happen. So that's a very, very, striking kind of, conclusion if it's true, which I can't really assess. And this is just a very quick, reminder or sort of the introduction of this cubism thing. And this is cited in the Krennikov's paper. But basically, fundamental primitive cubism is the concept of experience, and that's related to Qualia. And it's basically the agent can use to evaluate her expectations for the content and so on. So basically what I said, in writing. And also the paper's conclusion is, so this is the case. And this means, this is also something that I also found very striking, is that if the value of the, this one is x, and the same thing is also observed in the very far away, it means that the value of this A0 should be also determined long time before, I mean, a very short time probably, before this measurement happens. Otherwise, this kind of correlation or causation doesn't happen. So this is a part that I probably was wrong about it, but unless this observable A at time 0 was also this value x0 here, these two things shouldn't happen. And this is expressed in this equation 13 in Ozawa-san's paper, and this is called value reproducibility of outcomes. Okay, so that's roughly 5 minutes or more, 10 minutes. So this is a very complicated mathematical part that I don't think we need to understand, but this is the part that is argument of these things, and probability reproducibility and value reproducibility and time-like entanglement all are basically equal logically, and that leads to intersubjectivity condition that far away two persons observing the same thing should obtain the same result. And this, by the way, there is some kind of cautionary note that this doesn't happen for all the observables, especially for the so-called generalized observable or sort of noisy observables, and this is only for the precise kind of observable. But I'm not going to have time to go through that one. Okay, so I was kind of curious to hear Ozawa-san what you think about this, but I was very surprised that this is not the nature or science kind of paper, because this changes so much of the textbook notion of quantum theory from the fundamental, and it also introduces a kind of a new types of entanglement. So this is written towards the end of the paper, but I thought that's also quite a kind of so shocking type statement. And also, okay, so that's pretty much what I wanted to summarize about the paper. And from the quantum theory side, I have I don't really understand whether this is a kind of a possible experiment that we can do in the future. And also, what does it mean for different types of the quantum theories, like cubism as discussed, but also many wars or Copenhagen relational quantum mechanics. And the last one is possibly related to, relational Qualia structure kind of, argument. And also, in terms of Qualia, my own, interest, can there be an analogous situation? Like, if we are observing the same thing at the same time, should we predict under certain condition, we have to also experience the same thing or something like that. And then this is the last slide before the discussion. And maybe we can discuss it in the also grant meeting. Quantum theory per se wise, any probability reproducible measurement indeed reproduces a pre-measurement value, whether the reproducibility, repeatability is satisfied or not. And I don't understand or remember why I put this actually. Sorry, but anyway, I and Hayato Saigo have been also discussing that this kind of measurement side of the theory on Qualia, together with side of this, causality or relativity kind of idea, more sort of structural side of the things, such as Saigo-san's, category algebra, or I think this probably qualifies also for IIT, integrated information theory. The unification of both, like measurement side and also Qualia's structure itself is probably necessary to understand Qualia in a grand scheme. I haven't written this kind of, crazy idea, grandiose idea elsewhere yet, but maybe I should probably write it somewhere. And also, in terms of the potential, collaborative experimental ideas, I was also thinking that the uncertainty principle or measurement related kind of issue to be also explored in the Qualia experiments. For example, this is just a very naive idea, but if we have a moving kind of objects, and then if we ask people to precisely locate that thing versus precisely locate its momentum, then the variance between the two may have some certain kind of conditions. And if that's the case, then we may be able to say that potentially within Qualia of one object of several aspects, there may be some kind of uncertainty principles. But as far as I know, I don't think anybody has done this kind of experiment. So I wanted to know whether this is the kind of ideas that would be useful or interesting to pursue. Okay, I think that's it, and then maybe I have some more time, but yeah, maybe it's all right to stop here. Okay.
I think it's a very nice introduction to my paper.
Thank you very much. Didn't I represent anything by mistake?
No, it's very nice. I think it's surprisingly quite clearly and correctly catch my point.
Oh,
Great, great.
Great to hear. Yeah.
And the point is that the Qualia theory can have the notion of observable or quantity. In quantum theory, we also have, there are two kinds of the measurement, which is measurement of observable and the measurement described by POVM. Do you know POVM? the POVM is a notion which is more general than spectral projections. The quantum mechanics have the notion of the observer, which represents the physical quantity attached to the given system. And the measurement of this quantity or observable is described by a projection valued measure. However, there can be more general type of measurement which can be described by POVM, but cannot be described by projection valued measure. And my theorem applied only to projection valued measures. So if the Qualia structure leads to the this kind of quantity, notion of the quantity, then you have the similar theorem about the measurement of the Qualia structure. However, if you don't have that kind of the quantity of observer which corresponds to projection valued measure, but just only you have the measurement corresponding to POVM type measure. A POVM type measurement is just a statistical experiment which cannot be assigned to the value. And so my theorem doesn't apply. We don't know Qualia structure allow the observable or projection valued measure type measurement. It depends on the mathematical structure of the observables, which Saigo-san attempted to construct category algebra. I think the category algebra construct and include the projection valued measure type quantity. So I am guessing that the category algebra includes the measurement which my theorem applies.
I see. The
But
last
it's
part
very,
is
very difficult to think about that.
I see.
Well, can I ask one thing?
Please.
Well, so my very basic question is, well, this theory is good, but I don't know why it's related to Qualia structure. Maybe the definition of Qualia structure might be different. However, well, this quantum, entanglement and all these theories is fine, but I think the point is why this one, is related to Qualia structure, which you define more probably.
Yeah, so I at this stage, I don't know. That's my answer. That's a quick answer. But the reason why I think it may be relevant is that, for example, the more I study the structure of a Qualia, I feel like there are lots of non-classical kind of a property. And for example, this one is something that we published 2 years ago, where if you try to measure the similarity of two Qualia, let's say even, and every time we do this in a similarity experiment, it is almost always the case. But if you measure red similarity to purple or purple similarity to red, it's different slightly and systematically. And I initially thought that this could be always, explained by some kind of, simple adaptation or, criterion shift or something like that. But sometimes, this doesn't happen. For example, red and green similarity does not get affected by the order. But blue and green can be affected. And so all of this is very difficult to understand from the standard psychophysics, in my opinion. But when we use this so-called projection approach of the quantum cognition, we were able to explain it. And the part of the interesting finding I found was that maybe we are implicitly always assuming this commutativity in qualia, which is not really necessarily true. And this is not only true for this kind of sensory stuff. And in fact, Tversky, who was a collaborator of the Kahneman, noted this long time ago. But if I ask Ikegami-san, am I similar to my son? Feels really weird. But if I ask you if my son is similar to me, then that makes sense. Somehow this similarity has probably some kind of perspective or some kind of non-commutative kind of structure. And this is probably essential to the structure of experience, I think.
Well, in terms of non-commutative thing is that, well, like if you rotate in this way and this way, or you first rotate this way and this way, and of course it's different, right? So it's just to me, it's more like a rotation property in the 3D modern 3-dimensional things, right? So well, there's a bunch of non-commutative property that exists, depending on what kind of operator that you assume, right? So if you think that qualia has some similar structure, a mathematical similar structure, and what do you think of operators in qualia? Is it like a perception or something, or?
That's something that I don't know. I mean, do you guys have any ideas? Maybe Hirota-san or Matsuda-san, do you have any?
Tsuchiya-san, I need to answer another question from you.
All right.
You asked me about the experimental realization of the theorem. I think it's possible, and you can make two agents measuring the same quantity simultaneously by checking the both measuring apparatus for each observer calibration or something like that, to ensure anytime the given state the measuring apparatus shows the correct probability distribution, then my theorem concludes that those two apparatus shows always the same value. So that you can make the similar experiment even for the qualia structure in some sense, so that you can make the measurement or experiment with two different observer measuring same quantity of the object system or same property of the object system by measuring two different remote observers, and we can check they have always the same results of the measurement. If the measurement maybe yes, no measurement, then you can check always yes, yes, or no, no. Not happening to one say yes and the other say no. Do you have any kind of the measurement about such kind of quantity or property about the qualia structure? I don't know.
I was actually thinking, indeed, along this line. So, I don't know whether it will answer to Ikegami-san's last question, but also something like, for example, this one, that doesn't look anything for, many people. But if you look at it for a long time, suddenly this starts to appear something. And this is a kind of the situation where many people looking at the same thing and then measuring for example, when all these people start to see the thing, say either the same time or different times, and maybe separating it in a very far distance or something like that. You know, I don't think it's gonna be affected, but the Taguchi-san actually predicted that, you know, maybe if we are in the same room, we are likely to experience the thing in the same time or in the same way or something like that. So it is an empirical question, prediction. By the way, does anybody notice what this is?
Yeah, it's around on something, right? It's a
Yeah.
chimpanzee something. It's there.
Did everybody notice?
I
No,
think
not Masanao-san.
this is a kind of different kind of the phenomenon, I think, because there are, my theorem assume the probabilistic prediction about the result of measurement, and even the prediction is probabilistic, but the measurement outcome is unique. This kind of ambiguity described by probability distribution, but the ambiguity cannot be resolved by measurement. So the ambiguity is represented by probability distribution, then still the different observer can respond differently.
So you are saying that this is the kind of situation of the POVM, not the
I think
PVM.
so. Yeah, I think so.
I see. So, you know, the reason why I showed this is that this is a part of from the paper of the Tononi and Hong, and that they talk about the Qualia will have 3 levels: base level, intermediate, and high level. And they are talking about something like this is a high level Qualia. Maybe that corresponds to POVM. But the low level Qualia is something like this, that, you know, we have a space that's completely independent of the concept or edge or anything. But the intermediate Qualia would be something like that. You know, we just can't have a name. We don't have a understanding, but it's there. So maybe this or this level of the thing is more to do with PVM, maybe.
Yeah. In classical mechanics, the deterministic property does not include any probabilistic description. That they always have the definite state. However, in quantum mechanics, according to the non-commutativity of the canonical pair of the observables, such a determinable quantity even have the prediction is probabilistic. So the non-commutativity allow the definite measurement value or value reproducibility or intersubjectivity. However, the prediction cannot be deterministic. So prediction can be should be probabilistic. However, the result of the measurement can be predetermined.
Well, Tsuchiya-san,
So it's about 30 minutes, so or 20. So now it's 29 minutes. So may I
so
make
last question now, can I ask Tsuchiya-san about when you say Qualia, right? But in a different state of Qualia, for example, do you assume that there is a unique state of neural states in the brain, or do you think it's like it's arbitrary that the neural state, or you don't assume any corresponding neural state when you have like one Qualia state?
I would assume there is some physical state.
So do you think that, you know, in the quantum state that they have like you know, a quantum state, right? I mean, well, wave function of a bracket or anything that represents the state of the quantum state, right? But do you think, you know, if there are similar mathematical structure is you know, observed in Qualia structure, then do you think that the neural state can be formulated in a way that the quantum state is formulated?
we don't have lots of time to discuss about it. So maybe we should discuss it in a grant meeting.
Okay.
Just briefly, I think especially with the recurrent network of the physical neural state, I think the description of the neural states and the neural structure and neural activity state and things like that may be better captured by the non-commutative mathematics than the commutative mathematics. And then in that case, some of the theorems or some of the mathematical kind of results coming from quantum theory without quantum mechanics may directly apply to even at the level of the neuron. And maybe that also may correspond to Qualia level quantum-like effects.
Let's see.
Like this, non-commutativity in similarity and so on. Yeah.
So may I make a quick comment?
Yep.
So what I was interested in this paper is that, this paper or the theorem in this paper calls into question one of the premises of the cubism. So as Tsuchiya-san discussed. And so, over the past decades or so, there's been a growing trend in the cognitive science or neurosciences or even philosophy that is like, all you need is base or something. So like free energy principle or predictive processing or something. And so I've been wondering whether there's something missing from that kind of Bayesian worldview in general or something. And if so, what is missing? And so what I was interested in this paper is like, this paper can be a kind of, pointing out something that is missing in such kind of Bayesian worldview or something. So, and that kind of, thing can be, applied or translated into some cognitive, into the, the context of cognitive science and neuroscience or something. So yeah, that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, that maybe we can discuss about it.
Yeah. So that's
it's a great topic,
very quick
actually.
point.
Yeah, Bayesianism and also Qualia. I have a suspicion that unlike other people, I don't believe that the Bayesian is super important. But
yeah. So So I want to know what is missing from that Bayesian. So from the worldview, that is like all you need is Bayes or something. So, yeah. I want to go beyond such kind of Bayesianism. So what? And Matsuda-san, is there any comments or
No, sorry, no comments. I agree with Takashi, but I kind of understanding. Thank you.
So,
we should continue discussion. So the other occasion.
So it's about 30 minutes.